off we go. And I'll start where we began at the very top of the show with J.J. Watt talking about Kyler Murray, somebody with a much greater influence on the future of Kyler Murray, the present of Kyler Murray, the contract that Kyler Murray will or won't sign with the Arizona Cardinals. He met with the media yesterday in this ongoing series of pre-draft press conferences. This is great. Create some news items that we can post at PFT. Most of the teams, coach and or GM, speaking to reporters. And for some teams, they don't want to talk about the draft. For some teams, there are bigger issues. For the Arizona Cardinals, how about the guy you drafted number 1 overall in 2019? GM Steve Keim addressing yesterday the possibility that the Arizona Cardinals could trade Kyler Murray. Here he is.
There's been a lot of speculation out there, the possibility of you guys trading Kyler. Can you rule that out?
Zero chance. Nothing's changed. And then, really the way we've approached it is we have free agency, we have the draft, and then we'll take a deep breath and sort of refocus. And that's the same reason that every other player that's been a third-year quarterback has been done in the middle of the summer to late summer. And it's no different for us. It's just sort of the way that the system works. And but nothing has changed in terms of him being our long-term and short-term quarterback.
Steve, knowing that you at some point we're going to have to pay him, have you been talking about this, planning for this for the last 3 years then?
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen. I was a decent GM when Carson Palmer was our quarterback. When he retired, I wasn't very good. I am smart enough to know that Kyler Murray makes me a better GM. So, again, we took him with the first overall pick. We love him. The guys continue to improve. He's made us a better football team. So we're really excited about his future.
I don't know that using a top 10 pick on a quarterback means necessarily that a Cardinals quarterback is a guy that you need to keep, because they did use the 10th overall pick on Josh Rosen 1 year before earning the first overall pick and taking Kyler Murray. But look, this is how you slam the door on trade talk between what Keim said and what team owner Michael Bidwell said on Thursday. Here's Bidwell's quote. You see it on the screen. And that's not happening, he said, in reference to a Murray trade. There's just too much outside noise that people listen to. We understand that's just part of what goes on these days with social media. It's just not the case. Yeah, Michael, it goes on these days with social media because your quarterback started it on social media. Super Bowl week, removing all references to the Cardinals from his social media pages. Between Kyler Murray doing it and Deebo Samuel doing it more recently, and obviously we'll be talking about him later in the program, I think we now understand that when something like this happens, it should not be poo-pooed. It should not be ignored. It should not be disregarded. And I think what happened, Shereen Williams and I were talking about this yesterday during one of the breaks of PFTPM, and I'll go ahead and say it. There are plenty of people who cover the NFL for a living who are lazy, and they don't want to have to go chase a story. Because, if you're on salary, you don't get extra money for having another story land in your lap. And sometimes what will happen is somebody who doesn't feel like working the phones, who doesn't feel like trying to scratch the surface of a potential story, will just say, that's nothing. Let me go back to watching reruns of Matlock. I really don't want to have to try to figure out what's going on between Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. That happens. And I'm not saying that it definitely happened in that case. I'm just saying there's an inclination by some, and there are lazy people everywhere in every industry, in every walk of life. We all know who the lazy people are in our orbit, right? The ones who can be counted on to get things done and the ones who can be counted on to not lift a finger when push comes to shove. And I think that there's an inclination by some in the media who would rather not roll up their sleeves and work when something like that happens to say, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, we're 2 for 2 in high-profile players this year making major changes to their social media pages, which requires affirmative effort, or at a minimum telling someone from your social media team to go scrub everything off there, but you're changing the status quo. There's a reason for it. And as it relates to Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, I think it's a little more complicated, and I think what's going on here is Murray tried in a couple of different ways to agitate for the contract that he believes he deserves. I think that he recognizes, given the position that he plays, given the ever-present risk of injury, if he doesn't get his contract now, who knows what happens if he plays in 2022 and he gets injured in 2022 like he did last year. Week 8 against the Green Bay Packers, right before the end of the game, sprained ankle that knocked him out for several weeks. Remember at first they're like, oh, he's not going to miss any time, and then he missed like 2 or 3 games. I think it was 3, and then there was a bye, and then he finally came back, and he was never really the same guy all year long. And we've been talking a lot about the link between Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. And Shireen made a good point yesterday. It led me down a path that helped crystallize what the message may have been from Baker Mayfield to Kyler Murray. And it may have been, hey, Kyler, last year, the Browns were ready to pay me. I wanted too much. I had a rough year because I got injured in week 2, and now the Browns are done with me. And I disagree with it. I feel like I've been disrespected. We heard that from Baker Mayfield last week. But that's one of the risks you take. We love it when people bet on themselves. We were talking about this yesterday. We love it when they bet on themselves and win. It's a great story. Joe Flacco, the original, bet on himself and won. And I'm sure there were others before that, but that one happened 10 years ago when he said to the Ravens, I don't want your contract offer. And he went on and won the Super Bowl MVP, and he forced the Ravens to make him the highest paid player in football with a contract that was structured in a way that 3 years later, they had to make him the highest paid player in football again in order to get some cap relief. So well done. The ultimate all-in bet that paid off. But, you know, sometimes you bet on yourself and you lose. And we in the media don't like to talk about that as much because we don't want to discourage guys from betting on themselves because it's a much better story when a guy bets on himself and wins. So if we kind of realize we're not going to make a big deal about a guy who bets on himself and loses, maybe guys will keep betting on themselves. But that's what Baker Mayfield did last year. I'm convinced that the Browns would have paid him in the range of $30, $32 million per year on a long-term contract, and I'm convinced he wanted in the range of $40 million per year on a long-term deal, and he wasn't wrong a year ago. It was a smart play, but it was a bet on himself that he lost. And if he and Kyler Murray are keeping in the kind of contact they were keeping in 3 years ago, I've told this story before. This isn't like humble brag. Oh, boy, look at me. I mean, we go to the Super Bowl. We interview guys. They show up. Kyler Murray was making the rounds that week. We had an interview with him, and while he was with me for 10 to 15 minutes, Baker Mayfield called him 3 times. He kept kind of laughing, not really complaining, like, oh, it's Baker again. Oh, it's Baker again. So they're close. And if I'm Kyler Murray, and I have a very good friend who just went through last year what I'm potentially going through this year, hell yes, I'm paying attention to the lessons he learned. If I can learn those same lessons without having a bet that I place on myself blow up, so be it. So I think that's an important factor in all this, and I think that's why we've seen an unexpected thawing. On the same day that Steve Keim says, no chance, and that's how you slam the door. As I said, you don't say no intention, you say no chance. No intention means, we have no intention of trading him. We know what that means now. No chance. Door slammed. Not happening. Next topic. So, I believe Kyler Murray is now trying to find a way to back up from the brink to undo whatever damage may have been done. And it wasn't all that bad, but we did see the removal of the Cardinals from the social media page. We already talked about that. We did see his agent, Eric Burkhart, with the manifesto, single space, whatever that was, making it clear that he wanted Kyler Murray to get paid a lot of money. And if you look at some of the tweets that Eric Burkhart has posted over the past couple of months, it is clear that he is going to believe that Kyler Murray is worth a lot of money. And I believe the fundamental problem here is the Cardinals are going to come in at one spot on that broad range of $20 million per year for the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, and Kyler Murray and Eric Burkhart are going to come in another spot. And they're going to have a hard time bridging the gap. But when Murray takes to Twitter on Thursday, as all this is happening, and says, I want to win Super Bowls with the Cardinals, Arizona is home, and that is in response to a comment from Patrick Peterson, former teammate, who says that he believes that the Cardinals don't put the team in a position to be successful year after year, and Kyler Murray's not going to sit around and wait for that. That's when Murray found an opportunity to spin it back to renewing his vows with the Cardinals and making it clear he wants to stay, to the great relief of Cardinals fans who've spent the past couple of months wondering what the hell's going on. I think that Murray and his agent have realized there's been enough chatter, there's been enough talk, there's been enough indication that maybe somehow, some way, something could happen. And here we are a week away from the draft and nothing's happened. I don't think it was an accident that last Thursday, 8 days ago, we had this issue bubble up again with more reporting about the Cardinals haven't made an offer. And Eric Burkhart has removed his offer from the table. And it was new, supposedly, as of Thursday of last week, that Kyler Murray is not going to play under a contract that pays out $5.5 million in total compensation this year. Peter King pointed out last Friday. He had said that 6 weeks ago. And it's not a question of whether or not the Cardinals want to do it. The question is, how much will they do and when? And the Cardinals, we reported last Thursday, after all this other stuff was going on, have told Murray they'll take care of him this summer. Murray wanted to bring it to a head now. That was what they seemed to be setting up, because if we are at a major impasse, if the Cardinals are down around the 10th overall highest paid quarterback and Murray wants to push the top of the market even higher, if we just can't find a way to work this out, let's know now so someone can trade for him. But I think that's the other part of this. Enough people have been aware that Kyler Murray possibly is available for conversations to happen or not happen, for trade interest to be expressed or not expressed. And Sims said weeks ago, before any of this even came up, there are going to be teams in the NFL that would never want Kyler Murray. Too small. Period. That's it. Sorry. No matter what he can do, no matter how far or accurately or quickly he can get a football from point A to point B, no matter how fast he can run, shot out of a cannon when he's healthy, it's too small. They're going to say, no, we're not doing it. And the thing about Kyler Murray, when you take away his mobility, it's like he shrinks. He looked even smaller in the pocket in the playoff loss to the Rams because he wasn't using his ability to dart away from defenders, and I believe he wasn't using it because that injury he suffered week 8 against the Packers bothered him all year long. So this isn't a situation where all of a sudden teams are like, oh, Aaron Rodgers may be available. Oh, wait, Russell Wilson may be available. I just don't think that there was a clamoring for Kyler Murray, and that was part of what I think he needed to experience to get to the point where he recognizes where he fits in the broader quarterback landscape and whether he's in a position to make the power play that he was trying to make. So I interpret what happened yesterday in two ways. One, the Cardinals made it clear it's not happening. Two, Murray is trying to find a way to step back from something that could have resulted in a holdout or him going to play baseball. We haven't even heard that. He hasn't even mentioned the possibility of going to play baseball. And if he was ever going to put that out on the table, now would be the time to do it. I think what's going to happen now, I mean, this went from being story to watch every hour of every day from now until the start of training camp to, yeah, you know what, probably sometime mid to late June, we're going to find out that Kyler Murray has signed a new contract to remain a member of the Cardinals X number of years into the future. And it's going to be interesting to see how long-term of a deal he does. But it feels like that's where this is currently heading. And watch, I say all that. Next Thursday night, when the commissioner strolls out to the podium in Las Vegas, we're going to find out a trade was made and somebody sent their first-round pick to the Cardinals, who are now on the clock, and then we find out that Kyler Murray is the quarterback of that team. But I just don't see that happening at this point. I think yesterday ended that saga. As much as I'd like to keep it going, as much as I'd love to have the story, I love a good story. What do you root for? I root for a good story. The Kyler Murray story, I think, has come to a conclusion.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.